My hat! Alright, so front end is on, so now we can start working on the rear. Now, hold on, I don't want to lose the pins, so I'm just going to drop them there. Alright. I just took the pins out. Alright, so to install the rear end, all you're going to need are the 4 larger diameter countersunk screws, right over here. 2 of the smaller diameter countersunk screws, right there. And then you're going to need the 2 regular screws up here. I'm going to do these first, actually. And the reason why is sometimes you'll tighten the bottom, and then the top doesn't really line up very well. So I'm just going to set these in. I'm not going to tighten them fully. But I am going to get them where they're supposed to be, so that later on I can come back and tighten those once the bottom is complete. And just on the table will be easier, because the chassis has never been threaded. Something too that you can do, here, let me back this out, is before installing something, you can always just put the screw here and then thread the screw in. Right, just so you have the threads, and then you can back it out and you can thread the other side. This also helps, so if you're having difficulties, you can always just pre-thread. Alright, and we are back to what we were doing. One. Well, flip it now, and there. So you have to make sure it keys in. If you see those little things, it's 2 little bumps in front and behind the transmission, just has to key in. That's the click that you heard. So now I'm going to actually do the rear ones first. So I'm still using my 2mm driver, and I'm just holding the transmission. So I'm doing those 2. Do this. Alright, here we go. Just getting in close. But not fully tightening them. Now I'm going to get my 2.5mm driver. And I'm just going to start all 4. It's easier to start all 4 than it is to drive one in, and then the other, and then the other, because it might become misaligned, such as it is now. Alright, there we go. Because once a hole is misaligned, it'll just make it harder for you to start the screw and thread it in. Oops, almost dropped it. Alright, so now I'm going to start with these. These I'm going to drive all the way in. Alright, I'm going to start with this one. So this is the one I'm going to drive in all the way. The other one I just got close so it'll line. Now this one I can drive in. There it is. Again, snug. Do not over tighten this. There we go. I want to cross over here. Perfect. And this is the nice thing about countersunk screws. They just line everything up. There we go. So now I can go back to the top, and once I'm back up here, go ahead and snug these up. And that is it. So bumpers are installed, front and rear is installed. Now I'm going to move on to the motor. Now I need the pinion gear. So the pinion gear, one of the things to notice here is the teeth from the spur. If I can get a better angle, here we go. That's the better angle. The teeth are actually very close to the motor. Way too close. So what's going to end up happening here is I'm going to have to remove this motor and I'm going to have to use the spacer. I don't want to use the spacer because that kind of defeats the purpose of that aluminum piece as a heatsink because the spacer is made out of plastic. Alright, so in order to install the motor, I'm going to end up using the spacer that came with it stock. So these motors come with this little plastic spacer. Unfortunately, I have to use it. It's going to work as an insulator probably. Although some heat could be conducted through the screws. But the only thing I did is I cut that little section off. So as you can see, I shaved through these little bumps just so it fits here. And all you have to do with this spacer is line it up to the correct holes. So you're going to be on D. So it has D and E. You're going to be using D. And the easiest thing is to just go in like this. And then just drop a screw. There we go. Not aligned. Well, I'm going to try to do it this way, or else my head's going to be in the camera. There we go. It's easier to go this way if you can look down, but I can't look down because of the camera. Alright, so at this point, now you're ready to set the other screw, and you're not fully tightening either one. You're just getting them close, but you still want the motor to be able to slide toward the spur gear and back. So, see, this motor still can slide. And this is so I can do the mesh All right. So for this, you need to use a 32 pinion. So 32 pitch pinion. Now one of the things that you will notice the way this motor is the pinion has to go with the set screw out. It's going to go this way. That's the way. If you look at this, it's going to go this way on the motor. The other thing too is this is actually a 5mm gear. It has a sleeve, a reduction sleeve in there. So let me find the flat side. This is the flat side. I'm going to go ahead and put this in here. Now I'm going to use my 1.5 to tighten this. Make sure you line them up. There we go. Right, so they're lined up. Now all I have to do is just set the mesh. Now 32P is pretty easy to just eyeball the mesh, but if you need to, use a piece of paper, fold it in half, and then try it out, but should be able to just eyeball this. And then something, just be careful when you tighten the screws because sometimes your motor will shift. So if you can hold the motor as you're tightening, that'll help you out. So if you can hear that, there's just a small little amount of play there. You don't want it too tight because if your mesh is too tight, it's going to create too much friction. It's going to create a greater load on your motor. It's going to overheat your motor and you can actually destroy your gears. So you want just a little bit of play in there. That's it. So motor's installed. Alright, there we go. So I can connect the motor wires. So let's see. We'll go red to red and black to black. For some reason this is reversed. I can always reverse the transmitter, or because it's a brush system, I can always just flip these, turn them around. So that is connected, and now I just need to put the cover on. And I need my 2.5mm driver. Actually, it goes this way. And this, just don't over tighten this cover. You're just going to break those little components. It's snug, lightly less than snug. All right, so that is set. So the only thing that we need now is we just need the shocks and to mount the wheels. And that's pretty much it. So we'll do the wheels at the end. Let's do the shocks. All right, great. So you finally got tired of the little caps popping off of your factory Traxxas vehicles, or bending shafts, which is the next problem after you replace the caps. These are the shocks to go with. So we have the longs and the extra longs. Now these happen to be the blue. So if you look at the part number, this is just, let's see, here we go. So we have TRA 7461. That gives you the blue anodized. If you add an X to the end, it gives you like a gunmetal color. And then the rears are the extra long. These are TRA 7462. Again, if you add the X at the end, it'll give you the gunmetal looking ones. And for springs, I'm actually going to go with blue for this setup. And these are the ones meant for the rear. So the part number is 7449. And I'm going to do this front and rear. And I really do like the way these blue springs work in the front. Now, in here, these are very well packaged. Very, very well packaged. Now you do have some instructions here on how to completely disassemble and reassemble. If you need to do some heavier maintenance, such as rebuilding, you do get oil, shock oil. I am not going to be using this oil because I'm going to be using a different type of oil. If you're going to use that oil, the process is still the same. And we have the rears here. And again, packaging, great packaging. And once again, we're not going to be using this oil. Here are the rears. Now, the caps are plastic, but that's all right because the body is aluminum on these shocks. So you don't have to worry about them popping off. I've never had one of these pop off. And keep in mind, I use these on my drag car. I've used these on so many Slash vehicles. Installed these on my buddy's 4-wheel drive Slash as well. You can follow him on Instagram at Rods Reels RCs. Just check out his Slashes. There we go. I mean, he's got some other cool stuff like his TRX4 Sport. But anyway, these are very durable. So the only thing you have to do is just take the caps off. Make sure the bottom is tight. Remove the cap, top cap, and it just screws off. And then all you're going to do is you're just going to pour oil inside. So for my particular setup, I'm actually going to be using 47.5 in the front, and I'm going to be using 35 in the rear. Your setup is going to be different. If you're just running loose dirt, you're probably going to use really light oil or much lighter oil, maybe like a 30, maybe even a 25. But if you're going higher traction, you're probably going to use heavy oil in the front just so your car or your truck, your Slash, doesn't traction roll as easily. It will slow down your response, your suspension response, but at least you don't traction roll as much. To be honest, really high conditions, carpet, you don't have to worry about it. There's so much traction anyway. All right, and then just push the piston up and then bring it back down so you can see the bubbles. You should be able to see those bubbles. Just rise and go to the top. Oil. You're just going to do this a few times. Do it slowly so all the bubbles will come up. Once the bubbles are gone, you can add another drop or two. The other thing too is if bubbles aren't going away, you can grab a thin driver and then just kind of poke it and then the bubbles will disappear. Something else that you want to have on hand is a towel or a rag because you will be spilling some of this oil, and that's normal. So you grab the cap, place it on top, and then spin it left until you hear it kind of click and sit, and then spin right. And the reason why is because these are plastic caps, and you don't want to mess up the threads. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten it all the way, and then I'm going to push this up, let it go down. Actually, there's no pack. Not really. Oh, interesting. I guess I put just enough oil. All right. Well, let's see. So I'm going to open a little, bleed any of the excess out. Hold, turn, tighten, and then wipe off clean. And that's it. To be honest, this one was a lot easier than I was expecting. All right, so we're going to do the other one. Yeah, sometimes it takes a little more to bleed them. That's it. That's a lot of air. Then just add oil. There we go. All right, so grab the cap again, turn left. Once it clicks, then go right. And the reason why is if you mess up the threads, then you have to get new caps. Because then the caps will pop off. And this is probably one of the reasons why I've never had a cap pop off for any of these. Because I've never messed up the threads yet. Alright, so right now what I'm doing is I'm just compressing it, and then I'm about to unscrew this and bleed it one more time. Alright, so I'm just loosening it just a little, compressing the piston or the shock. Now I'm tightening up the cap, cleaning the excess, and that is it. So that's it. Shock number 2. It's complete, and these are the bags with the hardware that come in. So I'm going to go ahead and open these up. This is for the oil that we're not going to use. Again, I'm not going to use that. All right, perfect. Here we go. So now you grab these. Actually, grab the spring first. Let's open these up. So again, we're running rear springs on the front because I find these to be more consistent than the springs meant for the front. So rear springs on the front I find to be more consistent, more predictable, more linear. All right, that's it. Now, all you have to do is don't forget to put this in here. Now, notice in here and there. These are going to go in through here. There's that little cutout where you can see where the screw should go through. And these are very important. If you don't put these on, these things can actually kind of jump out, or the spring can actually come off of this, and then your suspension can sag, or worst thing that could happen is that thing falls out or you lose it, and then you have to go out and buy new ones. But that's it. So this one's complete. That's the front one. If you're doing these on a 4-wheel drive, this is all you need to do. If it's a 2-wheel drive, you have to replace these bottom ones. And just use the turnbuckles, the same ones as the turnbuckles, the smaller ones, they fit. That's what you need to do. So now, this here, when I get to that point, there's a lot of resistance. That's called pack, and I don't want that. That's too much resistance. That'll just end up damaging my cap probably, or causing this to bend, although these are very, very strong. They're much thicker than the regular slash ones, and I can show you right now a quick comparison. So this would be your stock rear. This is the GTR. I mean, just notice the difference. The difference is huge. Also the bodies. I mean, it's a massive difference, which is the other reason why I strongly recommend that you go with these. But anyway, you want to get rid of that. At least I do for my application. So this is the reason why I compress it, and then I just open this up. That's what I was doing. And then I bleed out the rest. There's a little bit of oil that came out with some air bubbles. And then I close it back up. And then once it's closed, I'll release it. And now, the shock does what it needs to do. I mean, it's still going to push out, but there's no longer that tough resistance. So if you ever replace the oil on these, or you rebuild these, if you have pack in there, you're just going to blow those caps off. And that's it. So definitely go with the GTR shocks for your Slash, Bandit, Rustler, Stampede. They are the way to go. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and install the shocks. Now I am not going to do the standard shocks. I'm going to do these GTRs. The GTRs are much stronger. The shafts are greater in diameter. It's just a better shock all around. You have an aluminum body, plastic caps, so the caps aren't going to be popping off, such as plastic on plastic. These things are always going to be popping off. So the rears are pretty straightforward. This part here, the larger part, if you see that versus that, this goes toward the component. This is where the screw goes through. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab the screw. Actually, I'm going to use this one. I'm going to use the longer screw on the bottom. So that's the one that goes through the arm. And for this particular setup, there's 4 holes here on the arm. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go to number 3. So I'm counting from the inside out. And the best way is to lift the arm. And I recommend you do the arm first, then the shock mount. And the reason for that is the arm doesn't really extend low enough for you to use your driver and not hit the chassis. And then, I mean, if it's installed, you won't be able to compress the shock this much. That's the reason why. So start off with the arm like this, just lift. that's really the only reason why I do the bottom first. Let's see. Can't really tell. Oh, I still have a way to go. All right, let's get going. Let's see. Almost there. And there we go. A little bit of play, just a little more. There we go. No play. Perfect. Then once you have that, you can go ahead and just install it over here. And I'm actually going to go on the inner one for the top. So the top's going to go on the inner. And here we go. Don't worry about that sound, that's just the antenna tube. All right, perfect. All right, so don't worry about that later. And the other shock, same thing. Trying to see if I should go with a shorter screw, but I decided not to. Mainly because I don't want to break the arm with a short screw. Alright, there we go. So now we'll use the shorter one. And again, this is on number 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go innermost. Turn this around because the large surface area goes up against the surface of the shock tower. That's it. I'm going to have to adjust the height later. Actually, once the battery's on there in the body, it should be fine. Alright, so those are the rear shocks. Now the front. There is one thing you have to do. You're going to have to buy these links because these GTR shocks, they're great for slash 4x4. They fit slash 4x4. They attach to the outside just like these arms here. And that's because the slash 4x4 uses the same arms all around. So the front and the rear arms are the same. They're interchangeable. So they attach to the front of the arm. These have to go in this little pocket. Because of that, these are too big and it's not going to fit in there. So you have to replace them. So just buy a set of what you would use for the links, for example. This is a spare steering arm that I have. I've already removed one and put it here. So notice the difference in the width. This one will fit, this one will not. Now you cannot use the stock ones or the plain ones because this is a smaller diameter, so they're just going to fall out. In order to remove these, all you have to do is just grab your pliers, grab the plastic here at an angle, and grab the metal portion, that metal part just like this. Then you're going to squeeze and you're going to rotate, pivot as if you were pushing it out. And that is all you do. And yeah, these have teeth, so they grab on. There we go. Perfect. Put that drum there. And then this here, just going to go in there, grab your pliers, and then you're just going to snap it in. And that's it. That's it. So now you're set. Now that you have both of them, this should seat properly. Now here, it doesn't matter if you do the bottom or the top first. Let's see. These screws though, keep them to the outside so they don't hit the arm. So the screw is over here on the outside. So on this other side, I'm going to mount it this way. All right, so this is in there. Now I'm going to grab the longer screw. And for this one, I'm going to go outer on the arm, and I'm going to go inner on this here. Now later on, once I run it, I will make some adjustments if I need to. But for now, this is going to be my stock setup. Grab the shorter one. And again, the larger surface goes against this surface. Smaller surface, that's where the screw goes through. And once again, I'm going to the inner. All right. So now I can do this one. Let's do the long one. Perfect. All right, and that is it. So we have our shocks on, that's working, this is working, so the rear is working. So we are almost set. I'm going to go ahead and put some wheels on. Start off with the front. All right, let's do this, and yes, my toe is completely off. That's fine. You can always adjust it once the wheels are on. Now, really what I'm interested in doing is just putting these wheels and doing an approximate measurement here on my ruler. And perfect. That is the perfect width, exactly where I need it. So I can run, these are actually off of my Techno, which at one point I ran on an SC 6.1. So that's the reason why I chose the Proline kit. This gives me the precise width I need. It's the same width as my Techno. So you want to be at about 30 centimeters. That's about the width that you're looking for. Or at least the width I was looking for. That is it. All right. Now we have to do the rear wheels, but I have to put these pins in. And if you're curious, this is for carpet, so these are the prisms. So it's the Proline prisms, and then in the front, they're also prisms, but they are the SCF versus SC. So you have SC, SCF. All right. So do this. Actually, we could do this one first. It's already horizontal position. Oops, bushing should be on the other side. Drop. There we go. Right, so now I can go ahead and put this in. I think I said bushing, I meant shim. Here we go. Perfect. All right. This one. And where did I put that pin? There it is. Right here. Oh. I guess I should tighten this wheel first. Don't tell my wife I'm not wearing my ring. It's because I was dealing with oil. Alright, let's see, we'll spin this tire. There. There we go. Wheel. And now we check the width on my ruler, and yep, that's 30, which is what I was looking for. So I'm using this ruler here, and I was just looking for 30 centimeters. So if I start it at the 50, there's the 80. Well, you can't really see because of the camera, but anyway, width is 30 centimeters. So that means that now my Traxxas / two-wheel drive can use my Techno wheels, which is really what I was going for. Now I just need to fix the toe, but other than that, this is complete. All I have to do is just put a body. Which I have several to choose from. And that is it. So that means I can get tires for these Proline wheels, and I can use these on my Techno as well. So other than that, thank you very much for watching. I am going to have some future videos where I'm running this. I'm actually going to do a durability test where I'm just going to crash this, see how the arms hold. I'm going to crash my other one with RPM arms, and then I'm going to crash another one with stock arms and see if they break. But other than that, as far as the build, this is it right here. Looks really nice. Thank you for watching.